But man alive, if this don't get you excited, I don't know what will. And you know, my thinking is, you know, when you go to the store and you decide what clothes you're going to wear, for the life of me, I cannot understand why somebody would choose to buy something made out of synthetic fibers, which is basically plastic, which is produced by fossil fuels, over picking clothing that is made out of a very natural fiber, cotton, that comes from a field like this. I mean, would you not want to wear your clothes made out of something that comes out of this field right here? Just absolutely beautiful and stunning. Just all right, I don't know about y'all, but to me, cotton is one of the most exciting crops that there is. I absolutely love cotton. I'm fascinated by cotton, and the more I know about growing cotton, just my excitement for it just grows and grows. You know, I like my other crops, but you know, with corn, you know, you got one shot to set an ear. You got one ear per plant. You know, soybeans, you got a bunch of tiny blooms that turn into pods. A lot of those pods get aborted, and yeah, I can kind of get excited about soybeans later season once those pods start getting full size. But cotton is just so much fun to watch grow. It's just absolutely fascinating. And I did a video on it a couple years ago about how cotton grows. It really explains how it develops, and you know, it's a very scientific you know, process about how cotton develops and sets fruits that I just absolutely find fascinating. But when I showed you a cotton video or two ago, you know, before the 4th of July, you know, we saw that cotton was real close to starting blooming. Well, now it's, I think, July 11th, and see what we got down here. Oh, look at there, white bloom. And then looking through here, we got one that's starting to turn pink. That white bloom bloomed this morning. This one probably bloomed yesterday, started turning pink. And then we also got some that have gone past the pink stage and started drying up. And we got a small bowl starting. And if I'm not mistaken, that looks like a 5-lock bowl right there. But anyway, tell you how it develops briefly. When a square, this is a square right here, you know, starts out as a flower and it blooms, and when it blooms overnight, it starts out white, and then it will progress to start and turn pink. And then looking over here, here's one that's fully pink here, and then it will dry up like that other one that I showed you. But what's so dang exciting about cotton is anytime you just kind of part the plant and you see all these squares on here, these fruiting structures, I mean, it just really gets you excited about the potential. And the key to growing cotton is to get as many of those squares that bloom, get them to actually stick and produce a bowl, because cotton plant will set far more squares than what it can actually hold on. So the key is to get as many of them to stick as possible. And how we do this is by a very careful management of the cotton crop. It starts out with a very sound fertility program, which, you know, you can tell this cotton looks good and healthy. Doesn't take a whole lot of nitrogen to produce cotton. You know, we've only got 40 pounds of applied nitrogen to this cotton crop. Of course, we're also getting some nitrogen from our chicken litter. You know, we're getting some nitrogen from our cover crop, and then we're also getting some nitrogen from the organic matter that we've built in the soil. So we can get by with a lot lower nitrogen rate than what a lot of other farmers can. But you also need to have good phosphorus. But the big key in cotton production is potassium. You got to have really good potassium fertility in your field for the plant to be able to support all those fruiting structures, because those fruiting structures really become big sinks for potassium later on in the year. It takes a lot of potassium to make a cotton crop, and it actually takes more potassium than what the cotton plant can actually take up through the roots. I think I read somewhere where a cotton plant will take up about 5 pounds of potassium per acre per day. And of course, there's no way that we could apply that foliarly, so that I don't even try to supplement potassium to the crop by applying it foliarly. But having a really good, well-developed root system, having plenty of potassium in the soil, will ensure that the cotton is not struggling trying to pull up potassium into the plant. You know, you also need to have balanced sulfur for your nitrogen needs. You know, we're getting some sulfur out of the chicken litter. I think we also applied 20 pounds of sulfur through our fertility. But then, not only good fertility, we also really need to carefully manage plant height. You know, I talked about in our last video or two, when we were spraying cotton, we were applying a plant growth regulator. And you see right here, distance between nodes, we're getting the nodes stretching out pretty good. And then we applied our plant growth regulator up here, the top node. You know, we're definitely shortening the internode distance, but trying to keep a more compact plant will really aid in retaining fruit, because you want the plant to focus its energy on reproduction and not vegetative growth. And then, of course, insect management. Insect management is absolutely critical in cotton, and you know, we're spraying all the time for pests. Starts out with thrips when the cotton's just coming up, but by far our biggest pest that will knock a lot of squares off is plant bugs, which we're actively controlling now. On average, we'll have to spray about once every 2 weeks for plant bugs. And then a little bit later season, we also got to start worrying about stink bugs, and then also boll worms, tobacco bud worms, potentially army worms. But we're not at that point yet. Plant bugs is our primary target now. But man alive, if this don't get you excited, I don't know what will. And you know, my thinking is, you know, when you go to the store and you decide what clothes are you going to wear, for the life of me, I cannot understand why somebody would choose to buy something made out of synthetic fibers, which is basically plastic, which is produced by fossil fuels, over picking clothing that is made out of a very natural fiber, cotton, that comes from a field like this. I mean, would you not want to wear your clothes made out of something that comes out of this field right here? Just absolutely beautiful and stunning. So just keep that in mind next time you go to the store and you buy some clothes. Be sure to support your American cotton farmers, not some Arab off in the Middle East that is selling US some oil. All right, another benefit of running this hooded sprayer is I'm covering all my ground real slowly, able to put an eye on every row. And when you put an eye on every row, sometimes you tend to spot problems. Like this problem right here. We got nice, big, healthy pigweed right here. And the hooded sprayer is not going to control this, especially since these pigweeds right in the row, it's not going to get any kind of coverage. Luckily, I brought another tool with me, the proper tool for that kind of job. This ought to make pretty quick work of them. Yeah, the pigweed don't stand a chance against this. Absolutely zero tolerance is what we practice on our farm. Don't let a single one survive and go to seed that we gotta fight again next year. And the thing is, we won't be farming this farm next year. It is currently being sold most likely for development. So even though we don't have to worry about these going to seed and fight them again next year, I don't want the chance that these go to seed and hop on the cotton picker and get transported to whatever farm we harvest after this one. All right, looks like I got them all. Well, I just made a mental note, regardless of what the Cotton Scout says as far as insects on this farm next week, is getting some growth regulator. Thing is, we just put a pretty good shot of growth regulator on it last week, and really should have put another one on it this week. This cotton gonna get out of control if we don't slow it down in a hurry. But doggone, it sure does look good. You know, that's the funny thing about cotton. You know, you put this tiny seed in the ground that ain't got much energy in it at all, not hardly any starch or anything. You're dang lucky if you can get it up. If it does come up and doesn't get wiped out by slugs, snails, or thrips, you know, the plant just kind of sits there for like a month. You know, maybe put on a leaf here or there, but just grows really slowly, just this really small, fragile looking plant. And the whole time you're wondering, what am I doing? How is this little bitty, fragile, spindly looking plant, how is it ever going to make a decent crop? And then all of a sudden, once that root system gets grown and established and everything, then the cotton just takes off. And you know, a month after that, you got this big, bushy, woody plant that you couldn't even hardly kill if you tried to. And then it's like that the rest of the year. You know, starts putting on fruit, you know, real big and hardy and everything, but it all comes from that seed that you just begged and pleaded to just even get it up out of the ground. And you fought like heck, you know, the first month of the season just to keep that plant alive. I mean, to some extent, you might see that a little bit in corn and soybeans, but it's really, really magnified in cotton. Well, now, I don't want to be accused of only showing the good and not showing the bad. About to show you some bad. Not all my cotton is peaches and cream. Now over here on Windy City, this was the very last farm I planted. Surprisingly, it actually came up to a fair stand in most parts. There's some really thin and almost bare areas in a couple parts of the field, but overall it really didn't justify replanting. We did replant part of it along that tree line over there, and then in this spot we kind of dropped down and replanted a few spots, and well, as you can tell, the replant didn't come up to a great stand. But look at this cotton over here. Now it's a different variety than what I was spraying yesterday. It's Delta Pine 2115, and it's a extremely high yielding cotton, but the only time that cotton actually looks impressive is when you get the gin ticket back from the gin. It does not look impressive growing. It doesn't look impressive when it's ready to pick, but it sure puts a lot of cotton in the bale for whatever reason. But you can kind of tell, you know, this cotton, it was just stunted from the get-go, and that's kind of what I was worried about, was the vigor on the cotton that I did replant. As you can tell, it's just kind of struggling. It's just really not taking off and growing because I think it used up a lot of its vigor going through that absolutely horrendous May that we had right after we planted it. Now I do expect this cotton to kind of take off and go eventually, but it's definitely going to be delayed, and I really don't expect this to be any farther ahead than what my replanted cotton is. You know, just looking at one of the bigger plants, yeah, we're not, don't have any blooms. In fact, looking at this lowest square right here, we're still several days away from even getting our first bloom. Again, that doesn't bother me. As we saw last year, I don't think we had our first bloom until like July 18th, July 20th. I mean, I still have confidence this cotton can go and make a good crop. Probably not a fantastic crop, but the potential is definitely there for a good crop. But this cotton also doesn't look great for reasons other than not having a good stand and lagging behind. You know, look right through here. You know, this is what a cotton leaf is supposed to look like. This is not what a cotton leaf is supposed to look like. See how it's, you know, kind of leathery and shriveled up and everything. And the reason for that is we got a problem with aphids on this farm. Let me pull this leaf and show you the underside of it. See all those aphids right there on the underside of the leaf? You know, they're basically doing the kind of same thing thrips do. They suck the sap out of the plant. And a big reason this is a problem is because of an earlier treatment we had to do when we were spraying for thrips. We were also spraying for three-cornered alfalfa hoppers, and we run a pyrethroid because thrips are getting resistant to acephate. And the other chemical we use for thrips does not control three-corner alfalfa hoppers as we found in the past, so we put a pyrethroid in there. The deal did kill a lot of the beneficials, that would control these aphids. So anyway, some of these plants, it's kind of hot spots through the field, look pretty ugly, but this cotton got sprayed yesterday with an insecticide that should help control the aphids. So hopefully now that we taking care of the aphid population, this cotton will start growing off and looking a little bit more normal, hopefully this time next week. Here's one of the bare areas that I was talking about a few minutes ago. You know, just all that water kind of drains down through here, and it's just one of those ugly spots we're gonna have to live with this year. You can tell where all that water kind of converges between the two hills and drains down through here. All right, well, we moving on along slowly but surely with this thing. We got about a day and a half left of this hooded sprayer on the cotton. We'll have that wrapped up. I believe Andy and Kelly just wrapped up the fungicide on the corn. Last trip we got on the corn crop till we pull the combine in there. So that corn is done for us, but cotton is most definitely not done for us. Got the scouting report this morning for our cotton, and once again, we got to spray this week. Last couple of weeks, we kind of been spraying like half and half of our crop just because of the way the bugs worked out. Now this week, we got to spray all of our crop. Like this field right here, this will be the third week in a row we've had to spray this field, and the problem is you know, we got 60 acres of cotton right here on this farm, but the front 100 acres right here has got corn on it, and that corn is basically a breeding ground for plant bugs. The plant bugs not going to hurt the corn crop, but what they do is got a big population in there, and what they do, they migrate across the terrace there and infest my cotton crop, where they do a lot of damage. And I toyed around with the idea of like the acres closest to the cotton field when we were spraying fungicide on it late last week, just throwing in a cheap pyrethroid insecticide, try and clean up the plant bugs there to where they wouldn't just keep migrating on in. But then I got thinking that's complicated, you know, for me to relay to Kelly and Andy what exactly, you know, you spray with insecticide and so on. So it would have been a good experiment, but we're just so pressed for time, and we got all this spraying to do. It's like it's never ending. As soon as the week's done, it's never ending for, you know, 3 weeks or so to get all of our crops sprayed, and it's just absolutely wearing us out. So, but one of our crops is done after we spray cotton this week. I think I'm going to spray a fungicide on some of my full season beans that we didn't have to replant. It's about due for a fungicide, and it's hot, humid. We've had enough moisture, even though it's getting dry again. We've had enough moisture. We're going to protect those soybeans. Then those will be done, and then, you know, we'll just be down to 2 crops, cotton and double crop soybeans, which, you know, if it turns off hot and dry with no rain, we're done with double crop soybeans. We won't make another application to it, but if we continue to get rains just in the nick of time, we'll go out with a fungicide on it. But cotton, we'll definitely have several more passes for insects on cotton. And not only has Andy been spraying and I've been spraying, Kelly's been trying to keep water to both of us, which she's been running her tail off in between us, because I got to fill up once every 15 acres. Andy's been having to fill up once every 50 acres on the corn fungicide. I mean, she's been running non-stop. We're actually running water quicker than what my hydrant can keep our water tank at the shop filled up with. But also Carter's out spraying. He's on the Can-Am today, spraying Roundup around the shop and everything else there, you know, killing grass and stuff. He also had to clean up a grain bin this morning. I'm scheduled to start delivering my seed wheat tomorrow. So he got one of our varieties cleaned out of our bins and in the loadout bin. So either me or Andy can haul it tomorrow. So Carter's been busy, and I tell you what, that kid has been a big help this summer. He's been helping out pretty much every summer, but now he's gotten big enough, and also he's matured enough to where I can trust him with certain responsibilities, and he goes out and he gets it done, and he's doing a good job. He's still got a lot to learn. He's still got a long ways to come, but I've been really impressed with how much he's matured over the last year. Shut down the hooded sprayer because got an appointment to get our seed wheat delivered and cleaned. We got two different varieties that we saved, a Pioneer 25R40 and Pioneer 26R59, and this afternoon we're going to haul the first load up there to the 25R40, haul it up to Greenfield, have it cleaned, and come back, and probably this evening or first thing tomorrow morning we'll get the second variety loaded up, and Andy will haul it off tomorrow afternoon. The reason I'm hauling it rather than Andy is because he's spraying insecticide. We're actually forecast to get a pretty big rain tomorrow night. They're saying like 70% chance of rain, 1 to 2 inches possible. Well, that's got me excited, but I'm spraying herbicides, which you really only need about 45 minutes to an hour of the herbicide on the plant before it rains, and it'll be okay. Whereas an insecticide, the longer it can be on the plant before it rains, the much more effective it'll be. I'd love to see at least like 24 hours. So I really need to keep him on the sprayer, spraying that cotton to get as much as insecticide applied as quickly as he can. And as long as the rain holds off till tomorrow night, I should be able to get done with the hooded sprayer tomorrow. But it's going to take Andy. I doubt he'll get done spraying insecticide today. I mean, he's got 530 acres to spray, and he's only got like a load and a half, maybe 70, 80 acres sprayed yesterday. They got 3 different mixes they're having to spray, so it's going to be partial loads, driving back and forth, all that kind of stuff, and it's going to be a pretty tall order for him to actually get done with the spraying today. But anyway, we got about 45-minute drive. We'll be in Greenfield. Alright guys, we made it here. If y'all interested, I got a good video made on how this seed wheat is. Alright folks, we just got back from getting that load of wheat clean. I apologize, but my battery ran dead. I gotta get a new battery for my camera. It's not holding charge. But anyway, what I was finishing off with was if you want to see the whole seed cleaning process, I made a good video a couple years ago how a seed cleaner works that details that whole process. I actually filmed it at that place where I took it, so be sure to look for it in the playlist, how farm stuff works. So anyway, I know I've been showing you a bunch of good cotton lately. Here's some of my not so good cotton. This is all replanted cotton, and some of it's good, but then I've got big patches like this where it was really hurt early by weed pressure. You know, we replanted it like a week and a half before we started cutting weed, and you know, the whole time we were cutting wheat, we didn't have an opportunity to get in here and spray, and we had a bunch of Johnson grass. Got real bad Johnson grass on this farm, but anyway, it came up in big patches here and started really choking the cotton out, and really slowed down development in some places like this right here. And then you get in other places it looks a lot more normal. We're not talking about a bunch of acres, but unfortunately of course it's right by the road. Looks terrible for everybody driving by. But that's kind of the problem with growing that fourth crop wheat. You know, you need to be in the field taking care of your summer crops, but you got to harvest, you know, one of your bigger cash crops. So just not enough bodies to sit in equipment during the month of June, it seems like. All right, guys. I've been preached a lot over the years and probably made a few believers out of y'all about the value of cover crops as weed control. And right here I've got an absolutely prime example that if it doesn't show you the possibilities of what cereal rye and other cover crops with high biomass, what they can do for weed control, I don't know what else will convince you. Right here we got a big old mess of pigweeds. Apparently I had a couple here in the corn crop last year, and went through the combine, and you can see the spreaders just spread seed out about 12 rows wide, and we definitely got a big mess here. But the one thing to notice is that looking down through here, the row itself is pretty clean. I mean, we got a couple coming up in the rows, but primarily most of them are right here in the row itself. Right there. Now right here, you know, looking down through here, they're right there in the row. Even one right here that looks like it's in the middle, if you look at the base, it's just a branch off of one that's in the row. You know, you don't see very many. We got one right there that's coming up in the cover crop, but this cover crop really keeps them from coming up. The reason they're coming up in the row, you look down here in the middle of the row, we don't have a lot of residue, you know, from our burned down strips, and then coming through here with a planter and the row cleaners and kicking any more residue to the side. So we've got plenty of sunlight for these pigweed right here to germinate. And you see right there, you know, it's right there in the middle of the row. Same way over here. Now, I've told y'all quite a few times, you know, these pigweeds are by far our biggest problems. They probably drive about 90% of my weed management decisions, and they are quickly becoming resistant to just about every form of chemistry. The only two chemistries right now that can control them is Liberty, which we're spraying under the hoods, but it's not going to do anything for these in the row. They're way too big, and the hoods are not going to be able to get them. Then also Paraquat, which it'll literally nuke everything out here. So instead of relying 100% on chemistry, you know, these cover crops, you know, they're not fail safe on keeping every weed out, but they are another very valuable tool on keeping weeds from coming up. They're a lot more effective on some weeds than they are other. Probably more effective on broadleaves than what they are grasses. But the one thing they are very effective on is pigweed. Now it's getting pretty late in the day. I've still got quite a few more acres to cover. This spot right here will probably take me about 30 minutes to chop. So I'm gonna put it on my list. We're gonna come back and get it in a couple more days. I gotta get this pre-emerge down on the rest of my acres before that rain comes in tomorrow. Just look right down through there. The middles where we got good residue, clean. Where we don't have residue, we got problems. But looking at this female one here, see, it's done put out a seed head, and you can tell it's female just by looking at it. The seed heads look different than what the male pollinating heads do. Plus, it's got thorns on it, so it feels pretty prickly. But here in about 2 weeks, this plant would probably have viable seeds. So, but don't worry, I will definitely be out here before that 2 weeks happens to make sure I unalive all of these. All right, it's done gotten too late in the day for me to be spraying Liberty. The activity of Liberty really goes down as the plant activity goes down when the sun gets close to setting. So Andy's still out in the field spraying insecticides, but we got our second variety of wheat. We got to get loaded and get ready to haul off tomorrow. And this is our smallest bin, so hopefully this will be pretty easy. Carter's supposed to be wandering down here in the next couple of minutes, so try and get this moved into the loadout bin. All right, that's one project I've been dreading. It's done. Ain't nothing more fun than cleaning out a grain bin in July. Don't matter if the sun set or not. We got a dew point of like 78 out here. It's plumb miserable. But anyway, all the seed wheat we're gonna need this fall, now done. Just gotta get her hauled off.